With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-Box system, we install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
With only 3 rounds to go in the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series, things are really starting to hot up. We continue our little tour of Belgium here tonight with taking a trip to Zolder, one of the lesser used circuits in iRacing, but nevertheless one of the very best. We have come out of the Ardennes Mountains now and find ourselves north of Liège for this 2.5-mile circuit that plays host to round 8 of this championship. Hello everybody, my name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Lorenzo Bonda here for this race, and Lorenzo, this is going to be one of those circuits that really breaks the floor of these F3 cars.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race. We still stay in the Belgium region though, so it's going to be like a complete shift of high and low downforce, lots of drag into a track that is going to be very, very difficult for you to overtake, and it will demand precision driving from lap 1 to the final lap, because Zolder takes no hostages.
Absolutely, it's going to be a difficult race for everybody. As you say, we'll get into the difficulties that are passing here as well. Let's just talk a little bit about the next 2 weeks coming up. After this race here tonight, we go to Montreal and Road Atlanta for 2 finales that should be contested and should have championships contested within those. Yeah, we've had some very different circuits, a whole host of different ones actually throughout the season so far. And yeah, it's going to end up at Road Atlanta in just 2 weeks' time. Let's see about those standings, and let's see where we're at with those, because in Pro, things have really changed from the start of last week, where we saw David Holland and Conor Wagner not too far away from each other. Kelly Petrie now has got up into second place, but they're tied on points, both 46 points away at the moment, Lorenzo, with a maximum of 38 on any given round. That is quite a lot with only 3 rounds to go.
Yeah, I think the fact that David Holland didn't take the start on Spa allowed Petrie to come and be tied for the points, and I think that's why he's actually in front, because of his DNF and a little bit of a better record throughout the season in Petrie. But the fight is very close. The problem is, how do you get to Wagner with 3 rounds to go? It's going to be very difficult, especially in tracks that are highly technical.
Is going to be very hard indeed. Needs to take more than 15 points around ideally, which is difficult. Also in the AM category, now this is where the real excitement is in this series, because Turner Scroll does have the lead at the moment. However, he's only got 13 points over third place at the moment. Takeshi Kita and Ryan Puchel are fighting for that title with him. Kita lost out on 3 points last week, so he's now 6th adrift. Ryan Puchel won last week's race, gained 3 points, so he's now 13 adrift of Scroll right now. This is where our real focus is going to be over the next few races. I mean, it looks like it's going to go right down to the wire.
It will, you know. I think Kita has to be a little bit more, he has to be appreciative of the fact that he was able to claw himself from the back. He didn't start in a very good position in the AM category. Used his strategy, used his race pace, which is much better than his qualifying pace, to move up. Didn't stay where he probably wanted to be, but still kept the margin very close to Turner Schroe, which had a very good round. But I think Puchtel might have been the best round, as he won last time by.
Absolutely, he did just gain those few points. Let's have a look at the team standings as well. Hardpoint Bow Delta Sport very much taking control here. By the way, this is combined with the Pro and the AMs. In some other series you see split team standings as well, but this is combined. Atomic Racing Proton at the moment in second, with their 78 points adrift at the moment, with TQ Engineering 125 points back right now. The maximum any team, singular team, can score throughout a round is 61 points, and we've only got 3 to go. So ND Autosport and Ace Racing Team can mathematically still take it. However, they're still a very long way back and probably need to have their drivers finish first and second in all 3 races remaining to be able to take that from here. So it's going to be very difficult for them in particular. Let's move on as well to the format, just in case you haven't been with us so far in this series. Of course, we do split up the classes between pros and AMs using this wonderful Dallara Formula 3 car. Maximum fuel is 50%. We will see pit stops. They're allowed to tinker with the setups. We're about to jump into the 30-minute qualifying session. It's already underway. We'll bring you up to speed with that in a few moments. And the race will be 40 minutes long. Drive-throughs at 13 incident limits as well. Could be something to factor in today, although not as much of a factor as it was last week at Spa, where it really would have been on the minds of the drivers. Before we go any further then, before we jump into qualifying and really bring you up to speed, we'll tell you about the sponsors that make this broadcast possible, starting with VCO, broadcast partners here at RaceSpotTV, helping to bring you every Precision Racing League event in 2022 in Season 3. Also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Bookkicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. And finally, Ninja Trader, ready to compete against the financial markets. Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides an award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Those are the sponsors that make this broadcast here tonight, and indeed every night, here at the Precision Racing League on RaceSpotTV possible. Not very many weeks to go in Season 3 just for the moment. Just over 20 minutes to go here in this qualifying session at the moment, and we'll bring you right up to speed with what's been going on for the 23 drivers currently circulating out there. Caleb Petrie has taken the provisional pole position just for the moment, although it's worth noting Conor Wagner hasn't set a lap time yet. Within the AM category, Nick McLaughlin at the moment setting the best time. Stephen Ridder's second, Richard Swindell's third, so none of the three championship contenders are in the top three at the moment with regards to that AM qualifying session. So plenty of time here, Lorenzo. We obviously go with Max Chablis there, just having a few issues going down towards the chicane. It's a long enough session here. Half an hour is a very long time to kind of get your lap in, especially here at Zolder. These guys have got a lot of opportunities with a short lap like this.
Yeah, it is a very short lap, but I think it's one of the most difficult laps in the entire season because you can see from my Oliver Bay, and we saw also a little bit before for Chablis, finding the braking point in some of these corners and then transition the car, throw the car in and make sure it stays planted. It's very difficult. It's very, and I mean very easy for the car, you know, to want to step out on its rear, have a little bit of a snap oversteer, doing the transitions on the chicane. So if you don't have a good setup that deals with the braking and then movement with the car, you're gonna find yourself in a very difficult position to race.
Certainly are. Just looking down the order at the moment in the AM category, particularly, I can't see Turner Scroll right now. Now he has got time to get in here. However, I can't see the championship leader in AM, and that will be really detrimental to his championship challenge if indeed he's not here today. At the moment, we do see Ryan Puchel and Takeshi Kita in here. They're 4th and 6th in AM right now. However, I can't see the championship leader Scroll, so that's going to be one to watch because he's already using his drop round for a DNF there. So he is legitimately going to score 0 points, which is really going to damage him in this title challenge. So it looks like we just got some confirmation actually from Hugo behind the scenes, a message from Scroll just explaining that he won't be able to be here for the final 3 rounds of the F3 Championship. Just thanking everyone for the competition and the racing throughout the 7 rounds that he competed in. Going next season, he's going to be moving over to the GT3s as well. It'll be very interesting to watch there. And says he'll be tuning in and cheering on everybody through the final few rounds. So that's a real shame to see, actually. Turner Scroll, championship leader in the AM category, confirming his non-appearance for the final 3 rounds of this championship. So that does kind of whittle it down to 2 between Takeshi Kita and Ryan Puchel. Only 7 points between them at the moment, and we've got to start looking at those two and start thinking who is going to take the title between them. And it's going to be a short fight between them towards the end here, and it's still going to be very interesting, despite the very sad DNS there from Turner Scroll for the final 3 rounds. It's still going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown. He was doing really good, especially in the Spa race. He was having a really good mid-race pace, and was actually contending for the AM spot at one point of the race in the leadership standings. But nevertheless, it's unfortunate. But the fun thing is, even with his current scoring, I do believe he might get a top 5 at the end of the day, depending on circumstances. So not a fair share of Dio, despite having 3 DNFs for the current leader in the standings of the AM class, as we see Chablis finishing up the final his qualifying lap.
And Conor Wagner also getting up into 4th there, by the way, but Chablis comes over the line now, and it is a slight improvement for him. He will jump up to 11th overall, but that won't gain him any places in the pro category. Oh, and I think he went for a spin there out of turn 1 as well. Unfortunately, just getting things slightly wrong there, but it seems to be all right. Let's dive a little bit deeper and talk a little bit more about this circuit here, Lorenzo, because as I mentioned earlier, it's not used very often, I have to say, in iRacing or in any sim, really. It's a very underused circuit, both in real life and in sim. However, we're using it here tonight, of course, and on paper, it really does look like just a load of chicanes. and you know, there's a straight and then a couple of chicanes, and that is, I guess, what it is when you kind of boil down to it. But it is a little bit more complex than that. Everybody's going to have to really figure their way around here, and it is more complicated than maybe the track map suggests.
Oh, definitely is. It is a track that you guys can see going to turn number 4, which is Lucien Bianchi-Bach. Basically, high speed, lots of momentum. You're going to brake a little bit after above the 100-meter board. Try to throw the car in, keep them blended. You can see a lot of people might spin around over here during the mid-race because you might be under high-pressure situations. As soon as you come out of the left-hand side, you go into the braking and throw the car in. Just hope it doesn't snap out, right, Ewan? And as soon as you transition to the car through these low sections, that's where you try to build up as max speed. If you're close to someone, this is one of the main overtaking opportunities in the track. Deep braking zone, you're gonna throw the car in, try to flick it as much as you can, and try to ride the curbing on the outside. And if you can do it pretty much cleanly, you just have to deal with one final chicane, 90 degrees on both sides. And if you do a really clean lap, you might get under the 120 highs, which I think what Ron Clinner might get at. I don't know if that step out is going to make any favors for him.
Let's see, he might be able to, and he has done. There it is, provisional pole for Rod Clinard, just halfway in this session now, and the first driver inside the 120s. But you get the feeling that the likes of Conor Wagner might be able to challenge him for that one and might be able to join him in the 120s at the moment. But that was a perfect example from Clinard there as just how to do this racetrack. That it is, as we say, a combination of those chicanes, but also some medium to high-speed corners in the first sector as well. Final chicane at the moment for championship leader Conor Wagner, who's just looking to take this one home from here, up towards the line for him now. And wow, a 1 minute 20.6. Now we're seeing the real times come in. The championship leader goes about 1 second faster than his previous best, and he goes to the front now, further kind of asserting his dominance really on this championship and on this session, just half distance now.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. I really wanted to see also how the track conditions are, because I said high 20s, but has okay. Thank you very much. As we see the conditions, 64 the Fahrenheit on the ambient, but it's 68 on the track. So it's a little bit of a very cold weather of sorts. Clear skies, not too much wind, as we have 8 miles per hour in terms of winds, and the humidity is quite mild. Not too much humid in the track, so it's easy to drive. Good conditions for everybody. It's just getting that car clear and building up the speed for the first moments.
Absolutely not as warm as we've seen on some other occasions here, but it is only 9:30 in the morning, so you can be forgiven that. And we are in Belgium after all, so we can't expect it to be roasting as Michael Blaise, excuse me, goes through the back end of the lap, or the very east side of the circuit, down there at what is the complex that is all called Turn 7 for whatever reason. Down towards turn 8 and 9 now, on board with the 99 car. 17th at the moment overall, and 8th in the AMS. Looking to maybe get ahead of our own Joey Tebben here, but going to be very difficult for him to do that, because he needs to improve by nearly half a second. Up towards the line now for Blaise, and he won't be able to put in the improvement needed, I'm afraid. Speaking of Joey Tebben, by the way, always gives us a little bit of a tip, a little bit of information, a couple of sentences of things to look out for maybe at the race as we get into it. Obviously, one of the things we've already talked about, the chicanes and how the F3 cars may well get destroyed through there because they are quite severe. But also, and you mentioned this or referenced this earlier, Lorenzo, the difficulty to overtake around here. It's going to be very, very obvious when we get into the race and it really settles down just how difficult it is to overtake around here. But if anywhere, where do you think there is actually going to be any moves here today? Because people are going to get itchy feet at some point and they're going to want to go for it.
Oh, they were. I think the few overtaking opportunities is this one right here. Oh, don't bend it, Joey. There we go. This is the first opportunity, I would say. Right is at this hairpin. You're probably gonna go for a deep late lunge, and then the chicane right after, which you can do deep late lunge, but you have the risk of over botching the curve basically on the entry and have to come back and give the turn right after. So you kind of go for the up and under. Turn number 1, maybe, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely the chicane which is the Jackie, there's a Kleine chicane, which is turn number 5, basically.
For whatever reason, the chicanes around here are not marked as 2 separate corners. It's just one corner for some reason. Even this 3-part chicane, if you like, this is all turn 7, including this right-hander afterwards as well. So I don't know what that's all about, but either way, that's what they've decided to do.
And I agree either.
It's not as bad as Road Atlanta, though. I'm glad to say.
Or Virginia.
Yeah, yes, exactly. We are going to Road Atlanta in a couple of weeks, by the way, so it's a whole load of tracks with strange corner names we've got coming up, it has to be said. Rob Clinard, though, into the final chicane. He does have a lot of work to do here. Nearly 3 tenths away from Conor Wagner right now. That is a lot of time to make up at a circuit like this, and he won't be able to make it up with that one. He's actually nearly 3 tenths away from his own best there. Never mind Conor Wagner. So certainly work to be done, but I guess the slightly disappointing news as well to bring you in terms of the Pro Drivers' Championship is that David Holland, once again for the 2nd week in a row, is not here. Not entirely sure why. However, not here once again, so Caleb Petrie might be able to make his way up the order. He's currently in 3rd place right now, but it is a shame. It is expected that a few people get a bit tired and don't really want to race in some of the series sometimes, but it is a shame to see the Precision Racing League's open-wheel most successful driver not taking the start for this race either. He will be missed, but I don't think Conor Wagner's going to miss him too much because he's currently on pole position, and Kevin Sandiego just negotiating with somebody spinning around to go over the line again there. It is always the danger at a short circuit like this, is that you can find yourself in traffic quite easily. Luckily, there's only 23 cars on the grid here today, but if we were having upwards of 30 and more cars, traffic and finding some clear track space really would have been a big issue here today.
Yeah, something like we could have seen the VCO Infinity, where you have 40 cars trying to duel it out on the field, that on a track that, in my opinion, I don't think 40 cars, but even then, we saw grids in the GT series, not in the PRL, but a real life GT series in Europe that fitted 40 cars, so it's completely doable. But still, it's a track that, again, is very difficult, and we have 3 cars, especially on these low speed turns, especially when you're coming out of the chicane. The rear end really wants to step out, so you have to be very careful how you press on the accelerator and regain natural speed, and then build up the speed naturally in the car without even having a little bit of a rear twitch on the car. So it's a track that for some it's not the favorite. Personally, I'm not a particularly fan of this track, but it's a track that if you know how to master it, you can make or break your race quite easily over here.
Yeah, it is one of those circuits that I do think does have its haters, if you like. But you know, it's what circuit doesn't, after all. Through the final couple of corners, it's going to be another good opportunity to go on board with the driver throughout a lap here with Leo Ho Ying Lung. Just a nice performance from him last week, actually. Another top 5 finish. Finished 3rd on the day. Oh, it's not a great turn 1 though, and he's going to abandon that lap fairly quickly, so we're not going to get a good view of this circuit on board with him, unfortunately. Caleb Petrie comes towards the line though. He only needs about half a tenth of a second to regain that 3rd place. He recently lost to Kevin Sandiego, but he's not able to do it with that one, and Michael Overbay wants a little piece of this as well at the moment. Going to try and get himself up there for TQ Engineering. See if he can make his way onto the front 2 rows. At the moment, going to be difficult for him because people are reaching the limit of what they can do here. They've been out there for over 20 minutes, and so there is a point where they cannot really go much faster anymore. Over the line now for Michael Overbay, and he has gone that little bit faster. He hasn't got himself into 4th though. He will need a little bit more for that, as Conor Wagner finds himself embarking on a bit of traffic here. I just want to go back to the discussion we were having a little bit about the difficulties of overtaking around here, and I just wonder, based on what we saw last week and what we've seen in previous weeks in this series, maybe the kind of difficulty everybody's having with overtaking might open pit strategy up, because we do know there's going to be a pit stop throughout this 40-minute race here tonight.
Yeah, we will, and this is something that we've saw the entirety of the championship. So it's going to be maybe you can cut a lap and a half short, depending on how aggressive you really want to be, trying to clutch it out on the car. Even though the clutch, I don't think works way too much on the F3, but nevertheless, you can kind of like save one lap here and there, doing some tactics, especially if you find yourself within traffic. But then again, it's one of those things that you have to be mindful of which part of the lap you really want to go for, because sometimes undercutting over here is not the most powerful thing. You can actually overstand an overcut and make it work really well. So it will all come down to in terms of high pressure, high intensity, and making the call at the right time.
It will be a long race for some, there's no doubt about that. Oh dear, as Ryan Puchel there gets all out of shape out of the final corner. That's turn 10, that final chicane. Jackie Ick chicane, it is. It's currently 1.3 seconds off of Conor Wagner, but I guess the more pressing concern for him is the 5/10 gap he currently has to Takeshi Kita at the front of the AM category. Kita recently getting the best time there with a fairly recent lap. He's getting himself into 6th overall and 1st now in the AM category. Nick McLaughlin, leader in the GT3 Open Series AM category. Also, I think he pole sitted actually for the last race as well at Spa. So he crashed out on lap 1 from the lead in that race, unfortunately. He was indeed pole sitter in AM, but as I say, crashed out from the lead through the campus chicane on the first lap, so he'll be hoping for better things here today. As Rock Clinard goes over the line, he can't go any faster, and he has been struggling. I get the feeling, though, that not even Conor Wagner can beat his own time at this stage, because we haven't seen an improvement on the provisional best time for a good 10-15 minutes, well, but closer to 10 minutes now, and I get the feeling that Wagner has actually reached his limit, and nobody's going to be able to beat him now, including himself.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of the most difficult laps of the season, because you have so many transitions. You're constantly transitioning the car, so you need a setup that becomes really stable on the airframe of the car, so the car doesn't step out on its rear, especially on these high to low speed transitions as we go into turn number 7. And you guys can see Tyler Campbell now going to turn number 9. Well, what is turn number 9? But I think right now on the sim is turn number 8. So it's one of those tracks that finding the right strategies and finding the perfect lap is very difficult. So I think I agree with you on that matter, that we're not going to see times going down. Not even Connor might actually put a time down, even if the track builds up heat, as it is still 9:30 a.m. on the sim. So even then it gets hotter. It's not going to get wholly hotter. I don't see people improving their laps way too much.
Looking at Nick McLaughlin now, you can see him there on the right hand side, swapping out his GT3 that he uses on a Tuesday, and swapping it out for the Formula 3 here tonight on the Thursday. Happy to be in the AM category again and be right up towards the front, as he so often is. Needs a couple of attempts here to overhaul Takeshi Kita and take a second pole in a week, but now he bins out the final corner and shouts some things we probably can't repeat on the broadcast.
Oh yeah, definitely not PG.
No, I mean, it's very rare actually to see Nick McLaughlin so animated, and even after he spun out from the very lead of the race on lap 1 at Spa, he wasn't particularly animated in the car, so that's quite a rare thing. It just points to a little bit of frustration. Maybe I guess the only thing we can read into that is just he's not really enjoying this circuit, and when he's not enjoying it, not quite as quick. Obviously, we saw that at Sandown in the GT3s a few weeks ago, and it might explain the just slight bit of animation there from McLaughlin. There will be some drivers out here absolutely hating it, even in qualifying right now, and they can't wait to get this round over with.
Yeah, it's that grind that you're trying to find the best lap possible, and this is the thing. This is already also the track of the week in F3. Of course, we already rolled into a new week in iRacing, but the thing is, Zolder has been a track that they grinded on, the drivers in the official series. So when coming to the PRL, they already have an idea or concept of what the track is, how to drive around the track. So I think for Nick, the satisfaction might have been he wasn't a really good lap and he got dissatisfied with the car stepping out at rear because they might have bottomed out as soon as he transitioned to the right-hand side on the exit of the final chicane. So again, a little bit of a letdown, but like I said before, not a favorite from some of the drivers this track.
No, it's the way it goes with the season. As you say, you've got to deal with the circuits you don't like to get to the ones you do, I suppose. As Justin Negrete gets over the line right now. Just 90 seconds remaining here in this session now. Can anybody really improve? We're not seeing many improvements at all. The top two are both in the pit lane. Conor Wagner and Rod Clinard have given up here. They're not able to improve on their lap times. Kevin Sandiego and Caleb Petrie got an off track on their previous lap times. They really won't be able to get there on that particular occasion. McLaughlin, by the way, just kind of accepting defeat there with that most recent lap time. Thought he had the pole lap within himself, but couldn't quite string it together throughout the lap. Takeshi Kita looks like he's going to be able to take that one now. However, there is still just under a minute to go. Michael Overbay, one of the few remaining out there on the circuit at the moment. His last lap was a 21.3, which is not quite good enough, but that he might just be building himself up here for a final real tilt at this. I don't think he's going quick enough, unfortunately. He goes over the line and it's not. He's half a second down, I'm afraid to say. And so no improvement for him. And it does look like both of the pole sitters in Pro-Am are settled. But McLaughlin there, Lorenzo, very gracious in defeat, I suppose. Just couldn't quite string that pole lap together. He had all the right, he had it within himself, but couldn't quite do it on the day.
Yeah, and you can even see from looking from his semblance and his appearance while he was driving the car that he was focused and he could feel it like deep down inside that was the lap that he was looking for. And unfortunately just couldn't capitalize in the end. Qualifying, especially in these moments that we got the checker flag, it's like this, right? High pressure, high intensity. You really don't want to fail your lap. That's why getting those moments like Ayrton Senna, as we see Ryan Pushtal going into the start-finish line. I don't think there will be a faster lap, but if it is, it's going to be marginal. No, it is not. But finding that perfect lap at the end of qualifying is just completely and simply the worst. Trust me. I think you've been in that scenarios many times, even when you were driving, but when you get that pressure, try to find a better lap on your teammate or your competitor is just simply the worst.
It's a difficult time for everyone. It has been particularly for Ryan Puchel. We saw a moment ago coming over the start-finish line, down in 5th with Kita up there in 1st. He's going to need a good race, is Puchel, and he'll be hoping that the settle he's got under him will just about do it for him. Joey Tevin just hopping into our chat at the moment to explain how frustrating that was as a driver, and I'm sure he's not the only one feeling that way after that session. Half an hour for these guys to get on with that, and they just about reached their limit towards the end. We'll go through the grid right now as we get ready for 40 minutes of racing here at Zolder. It's Conor Wagner alongside his teammate Rod Clinard on the front row. Kevin Sandiego and Caleb Petrie will be just behind him with Michael Overbay running up the top 5. Leo Ho Ying Lung will be in that 6th place, just ahead of the AM pole sitter Takeshi Kita. Nick McLaughlin couldn't quite get there in the end. He's just behind him with Richard Schwindel's 3rd. Tyler Campbell, one of the pro drivers, running out the top 10 ahead of Justin Negrete and Max Shabley. Those two are the final of the 9 pro cars today. Stephen Ridders and Ryan Puchel will be 13th and 14th. Puchel will need an improvement from there if his championship challenge is a serious one. Brad Miller will be 15th alongside Michael Blaze. Joey Tebin will be 17th alongside Brian Lowe. Running out the top 20, it's Peter Newhook and Adam McDonald. Blake Ziti will be just outside the top 20 with Ross Cado and Lucio Vargas rounding out the 23 cars ready to go racing here for 40 minutes at Zolder. 28 laps are going to be for us here tonight, and the cars just drivers, cars getting themselves lined up on the grid right now, getting themselves set for that rundown towards turn 1. Not the most dangerous on the calendar, however, everybody will need to stay very, very aware because it's relatively narrow, particularly on the exit there, and there's not many places to go if there's incidents in front of you.
No, but the problem also is that turn 1, even though it's a left-hander and it's not the biggest radius as a turn, the car doesn't have the grip yet for you to handle that thing as you probably want in full speed. So you have to be very mindful of taking a certain approach into turn number 1 and then the turn number 2 and 3, because those are probably the worst turns you probably want to have in a sequence of turn number 1, 2, and 3 in an opening lap, as we only have one driver left to grid up on the 20 car grid.
Only a few remaining. The most notable, of course, Rob Clinard, who just does that right now. So we're all set, we're all ready to get going here at Zolder. Drivers readying themselves. The revs will rise very soon and we'll be underway for 28 laps of racing and or 40 minutes. It looks like we're going to be well within the 40 minutes here today by a couple of minutes. The lights go on, the revs rise, and the Precision Racing League gets ready to go racing, Formula 3 racing, here at Zolder. We're underway with championship leader Conor Wagner once again having a good start. It's a terrible one in the mid-pack for somebody. Cars have to scramble to avoid, but it's mostly single file between the top 5 to 8 cars or so. It's a very well-behaved start from everybody, the pro guys in particular, getting themselves single file. It was Takeshi Kita who had a terrible start, the pulse hitter going backwards immediately, and he's already way down the order. He's down to 14th overall from 6th place on the grid, as we've already got spins, we've already got crashes, just in the grid gets into the wall. He's got no front end on that car anymore. Luke as well is off the road. There's cars everywhere, there's bodywork everywhere. It's exactly what we expected.
Yeah, it was exactly what we expected. Probably one of the worst sequences of corners you can have on lap number 1. Leo Lung just grabbing too much sand on the car and just immediately spun and halfway across into the track, and he then came back. It's somehow a miracle that nobody got involved after that comeback from Lung, but I'm slightly surprised that we still have more cars up.
Oh, we do. Adam McDonald off the road there. He's down to 11th in the AM category as Ross Cado gets through on him at the moment. As Rob Clinard and Conor Wagner, the teammates here, drive 1 and 2 right now, getting away from the rest of the field. The two of them finished 1 and 2 at the end of last race, of course. They had a great battle right towards the line that was settled by maybe over-aggression from Rob Clinard in the end. It was a last lap pass from Wagner, who took another win in this series, his sixth, excuse me, of this season out of 7. It's been a very impressive record indeed as the two teammates just get away from the field. We'll hopefully get a quick look at the start again and see really what happened down there in the mid-pack, because while the leaders were very well behaved and had a very nice start of things, it wasn't particularly nice for some in the background. I guess very significantly as well, Takeshi Kita not having a great start at all. He's into the pit lane after 1 lap. Not sure what happened to him. This is what happened to Lung, who just, I mean, it's a simple mistake to make, just getting on that gravel on the outside and a whole front end ripped off of that car.
Yeah, and you can see the car just getting way too much sand, like I said before, and when he came back on track, everybody did really good deviation tactics, so try to deviate from the crash, and didn't cause any mayhem right after, which could have been completely wrong, as we just saw. Also a little bit further in the back, Tyler Campbell moving against Swindells for P6, so good battle right about the outside of the top 5, as we have a mixture of pro drivers and AM drivers battling for positions.
Yeah, this is the beauty of it. You do get to see this very often in the Precision Racing League in multiple series with the pro and am split. Swindells very nearly got rear-ended there by Michael Overbait, who's just in front of Max Shabley there. You can see at the completion of lap 2. Takeshi Kita, by the way, still in the pit lane. There's surely damage on that car, and it's not too surprising given the start that he had, and it's terrible news for Kita in terms of this championship. He's already got a DNF. Oh, as we got our car off, that's Campbell who's gone off the road. It looks like it is a simple spin, and he's going to recover from that one through turn 4. However, he will lose out. This is how it happened, just clipping that curb on the inside.
Yeah, and this is something I was kind of holding it in for myself to mention. I think if there is one thing that Zolder is quite unique on other side than other tracks that I probably have seen, not just in iRacing, but in the real world, as you're going to see in the replay, is these like cobblestone ass curbs that you probably don't see. It's mini sausage curbs just right on top of it, and they're pretty much gone. It has plenty around the track, especially outside of turn number 3 and outside turn number 4, which are into the turn number 4, which is rather unique. You don't see too many of that in other tracks.
I certainly get your description there. They're not quite full-on sausage curbs that you would traditionally see around circuits, but they're not like, yeah, they are certainly to be avoided all the same. It's a very weird contraption they've got here, and it's certainly sent Campbell for a bit of a ride. It's all allowed Nick McLaughlin, though, to have a big lead here. It all kind of halted this group just a little bit, and now they're nearly 8 seconds behind. This is Swindells and Ridders, Blaise, Buchel here as well, along with Miller. And Campbell, of course, as well, who's not too far behind, as Takeshi Kita's still in the pit lane, down in 14th. They're going to be struggling to get anything else other than that position out of the day. It's going to be very, very damaging indeed, but Buchel needs to take advantage all he can here. At the moment, he's only 5th in the standings right now, and he won't be gaining too many points. He needs to take advantage of an almost unprecedented opportunity to put points into his championship rival.
Yeah, you were basically going to say, you said basically what I was going to say. You know, this is good, an opportunity for Buchel to try to move up on the standings and take lead in the standings. You know, Kita is already out of the picture, like, let's just say even before the race started of sorts, because he completely botched the start and it kind of had a little bit of a crash later. And I think Rock Clinard had a little bit of a mass, and he's losing lots of places spinning around the final chicane.
Oh, Rock Clinard just making a mistake at the final chicane. He was on the tail of his teammate Conor Wagner, and we were maybe hoping for a little, well, he wasn't quite as close as when we last left them. However, we were hoping, of course, for a grandstand finale like we got at Spa, but we're not going to, because Rod Clinard has had a bit of an error here. Now, where did it come? Was on the exit, and he was already going before he got onto the grass, actually, and then fully ended up going the wrong way and had to spin it around on his own and get back going again. That won't have done the rear tyres a great deal of good. But yeah, just a bit of a silly mistake, really. But you have to say that the grass didn't play too much of a role. He was already going around through that final chicane, and that's not the first time we've seen that in our broadcast tonight. People really are struggling with getting on the power and trying to maximise that exit, as Tyler Campbell's really having big trouble there with turn 4, although that might be another replay. If that's a separate incident, and that's remarkable similarity. But either way, yeah, that final chicane is tripping a few people up now.
Yeah, you can even see that he kind of botched the entry of the chicane and ran a little bit and try to make up the time loss during the transition from the first part of the chicane to the second part of the chicane, and just carried way too much speed on the second half of the chicane. And the rear end just decided to step out. Natural stuff. That's what happens when you bust the chicane a little bit.
Yeah, it's unavoidable. Once you've made that error, you're going around. Approaching quarter distance already in this one, and not much progress has been made for Ryan Buchel. You get the feeling, though, that he's trying and unable to. This is not one of his strongest circuits by the looks of things. Oh, as we got off the road for Brad Miller's off the road. Trying to get back going again is very difficult when the field is so packed up like this. Let's see what happened. Looks like it was on his own. And it didn't even look like he really got the curb there. He just ended up going around.
Yeah, I think it's another natural thing to happen, because we'll have, this is the thing, you put too much stress on the chassis, right? You just go to a medium to high speed corner on turn number 1, set up on turn number 2, and then go to number 3. When you're doing that switch from the left hand to the right hand side, you need to be planted on the ground, and also when you brake. And I think that as soon as he braked, I think it was brake while turning, and the car just decided to step out, and its rear lost it completely.
He'd lose a lot of time in that one, unfortunately. And where's he dropped down to? 20th place. The last car having not been in the pit lane as of yet in this race, as Michael Blaze has had problems through the final chicane, and that was exactly the opportunity that Ryan Puchel was waiting for. Or was he involved in that one? Because that's very early to be spun around. He was just recovering. It was on his own in the end. Oh, goes for a spin and rejoins right into the path of one of his fellow competitors. Unfortunately, not a great rejoin. As we saw in the background, I think this is Joey Tebben who went around as well. It was indeed. That final chicane claiming a lot of victims now, as Kevin Sandiego from fourth place, well, he's third at the time, but not anymore, bouncing wildly across those curbs, and Nick McLaughlin now as an AM driver already into the top 3 in this race. That just shows how chaotic and what an attritional, chaotic race it's going to be here. It's a case of surviving here without spinning around, and you're going to get a good result if you manage that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a little bit of a look on the back right there. I think that was Swindell's trying to go for a look on Chablis, and I think Chablis just kind of like botched the turn a little bit, lost position to Swindell's and Ritter's, and but yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This is a survival track, even on officials. And let me tell you something, even if there's a race, if you have to come with safety rating for your life, don't come with this track, because either you have no penalties on this track, or you have plenty of penalties or off-track incidents around this track, or spinning around the car. It's just simply the worst. So it might be a nightmare for some of the drivers right here, as oh no.
Chablis, again, second time in a few corners that he's been either slightly wide or off the road entirely there, and he drops outside the top 10 overall, drops to 7th in the pro class, but that is the last running car. Justin Negrete already out of this race. So's Michael Blaze, by the way, also out here at the moment. Lung also getting repairs right now. He was heavily damaged in that car, looking to try and get out there and get those points, of course, for his championship. Kevin Sandiego recovering from that wild ride over the curbs at turn 5. He's back on again and running with Clinard and Overbay just in behind. Clinard recovering, of course, from his own problems earlier on in this race, and that's going to be a story of the day. Plenty of people trying to recover from their various problems that they've had throughout the race, and no different than in this battle for 4th. It's a slightly wider entry to the very final turn there for Clinard, for maybe a run onto the front straight, but where are you going to go from here? It's a fast opening corner to this racetrack, and all you can do is just stay very close in behind and just try and tuck in best you can, but not able to find a way through. This is the real problem at Zolder, especially for most of these drivers. They're fast in the wrong areas, because Clinard was very strong at the final corner there, but it's just not ideal to be really close going into turn 1. You're just never going to make a move there.
Yeah, not only that, you can stay behind someone who can get a little bit of an arrow wash effect. So it's like, you know, in the spec racing on around, go back to you.
Here we go. Side-by-side racing, inside line into turn 7, and Rod Clinard does have the place. It was a bit of a mistake from Diego in the end, but that was all it needed. Rod Clinard able to get the exit and able to get 3rd position in Pro, back 4th position overall as well. And Michael Overbay may well be next. It was just one of those mistakes really from Kevin Sandiego, and that's what you've got to wait for when you're a car behind, because even when you've got the pace like Rod Clinard here, you can just see how much quicker he is than Kevin Sandiego. Even then, he wasn't able to find a way through organically. He just had to apply the pressure and wait for a mistake.
Yeah, and it's a little bit problematic. Oh, but I think we found the reason. Did he acquire that damage when he was on the hairpin? Because I think he acquired that from wing damage on the left-hand side on the hairpin while trying to avoid hitting the back of Rod Clinard.
Now, where did that damage get picked up? I actually thought it was. I did notice that, but I thought it was the livery. But no, you're right. You're right. There is certainly damage on that car. The front wing twisted all kinds of ways at the moment. You can see on the front right, as we look at it, his front left slightly twisted. and the kind of end plate at the end is sort of twisted inwards as well. So that surely is having a bit of an effect right now as well. He's currently running in the mid-22s, which is about a second slower than those at the front of the field. And even at a circuit where there are quite a lot of low-speed corners, any kind of damage like that in these cars, as you mentioned last week, really is going to affect you quite badly. So surely that might be playing a role.
Yeah, he's going to be basically a sitting duck for now, but the problem is, like, Overbay is in a very bad position because you need to overtake, because if you don't end up overtaking, you get Swindell's, Ritters, and then Pushtel not far behind. Of course, there's a little bit of a gap between them, but this is one of those kinds of, not gap racing, but close racing that if you lose too much time and you are not able to overtake, in a cruise time, you lose time, and not only that, you let other people join you because you're just making too much effort trying to make an overtake, and that is just really bad.
I'm afraid we've got some big news and some bad news as well from the further down the order. Our retirement list has grown to 3. We've already spoken about Negrete and Blaze, but now we can talk about Takeshi Kita. He has retired from this race, unfortunately, as down the inside goes Michael Overbay at turn 5. That's a brave one, and they've lost a lot of time doing it. However, he's made his way through, and he's up into 5th place. A nice move from Overbay, and now Swindell's, Ridders and Puchel, as you mentioned earlier, or feared, I guess, for Kevin Sandiego. They're right onto him right now. But Kita, as I say, is out of the race. He'll be scoring no points from this because he didn't reach half distance. And so with whatever points Ryan Puchel gains out of this race, he will be gaining in the championship. He started with a 7-point deficit. He's going to end up with quite a big lead here. I would expect it to be over 20 points, or roughly 20 points exactly at the moment, maybe just over. And that is quite a lot going into the final 2 rounds. So bad news for Takeshi Kita, and a real opportunity now for Puchel, because wherever he finishes, he is going to be gaining points. And I think if he gets to half distance, he's pretty much guaranteed himself to be in the championship lead.
Oh yeah, and I think just making quick mathematics over here, he might be up to get about 22 or 23 point lead on Takeshi Kita as they go into the next round if you continue going on like this. But of course, we still have pit stops somewhere at the late point of the race, and see if we can actually claw up a few spots, because on pace it's a little bit more complicated for him to make those moves. But Pushtel, I think, already knows that he needs to keep that car on track and in that position no matter what.
Absolutely, he cannot go off the road at any cost here at this stage, as Newhook and Joey Tevin are having a great battle. Peter Newhook and Joey Tevin going back and forth, side by side. Peter Newhook coming out on top in that one, and he'll be up to 15th with that move. That, of course, being 8th place in the AM category right now. But Kevin Sandiego has not allowed himself to come under the pressure that he might have otherwise done. We did fear that Swindell's and Ridders were going to be on the back of him soon, and he was going to find himself all of a sudden getting steamrolled by everybody, but that has not been the case. We've seen him kind of stop the bleeding here almost, and we've got Swindell's and Ridders just losing ground a little bit. Puchel has got Tyler Campbell, excuse me, just in behind at the moment, not too far behind, but that's nothing really to worry about here in the pros right now. Kevin Sandiego just consolidating that 5th place in pro rather nicely, and despite losing a lot of time, despite having that damage, he is coping with it quite well, and he's on course for a good result if he can just keep things together in the second half of the race here.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and this is what matters, you know. But the problem is you're on a track like Zolder, and we already mentioned mistakes are plenty. We're seeing those mistakes being done left and right. Let's see what happened over here to. Oh no!
Around Joey Tebin, going for a spin, and hopefully rejoins without problem. He will indeed. That was in that battle with Peter Newhook, by the way. You can just see, or you could just see, just up in front. He's now 18th, is Joey Tebin. Brad Miller in the pit lane as well. Might be our first scheduled pit stop of the day, and we're reaching half distance. Time to stop thinking about the pit stops, and time to stop thinking about pit lane as well, because it's quite a difficult one, especially if you're following somebody. You can very easily, well, I'll say easily, you can fairly easily find yourself going straight into the back back of the car in front of you, because of course pit lane here is slightly weird. And of course, before that you actually reach the part where you have to be at pit speed, you've got a chicane of your own to negotiate there. So it is not one of the easiest to get on pit lane.
Oh no, I think, and this is one of the things for racing. I'm trying to remember, there was an incident at Zolder a few years back in real life that someone was coming to the pit lane, and the pit lane, you basically just kind of like go full throttle of sorts. As we see a problem for Anna McDonald once again, just having a little another issue, but this time on the final chicane for the number 5, as we are back into a little bit of a battle as Tyler Kimball is applying that pressure on Puchel.
He is just trying to get through. This is a pro versus am fight, of course, so it won't matter quite as much, and Puchel might well just let Campbell through just to avoid the trouble here. He won't want any of that, there's no doubt. I actually thought he was going to lift off and just let him have that one into turn 7, but Tyler Campbell either didn't want to go through, or Puchel wasn't quite going to go down quite that easily. He has, of course, got his own race to think about here, and he will want a podium, but I don't think he's going to go all out for it. Into the final chicane at turn 10. Jackie X chicane. And it's a nice final corner there for Tyler Campbell, who's going to find himself down the inside, and Puchel won't put up any resistance you wouldn't expect. He breaks that little bit early, lifts off that little bit early, and lets Campbell through. He has lost a bit of time in doing that, of course, and he will lose out on a fair bit of time. Actually, nearly 2 seconds adrift now of Swindles and Ridders. However, he has let Campbell through, and that's the best thing for Puchel here. I'd expect him to do the same when Chablis gets there as well, because he just doesn't want the trouble from these pro cars, really.
Yeah, but I think the one thing he really doesn't want to get is the situation what happened with Campbell. Campbell kind of like botched it, the apex going to turn number 1 while making the overtake, so that's why they lost a little bit of touch to Ritters and Swindell's. The thing now is avoid that time loss that he got on turn number 1 to Chablis right now.
Smart thing.
By the way, real quick, has something happened to Petrie? Because last time I checked, and that was like 5 or 6 laps back or so, the gap between Wagner and Petrie was right around 8 seconds.
I'm not entirely sure, really. He could be. Well, we might have the answer here. Oh dear. It's a big hit over those very, very nasty curbs, and I think that is the exact reason for most of the gap right now. He's also losing quite a lot of time. To be fair to Wagner, he is the fastest car out there on the circuit right now, and he has been for lap after lap after lap. However, that is exactly how that big gap was created there. And it's what we were speaking about, pretty much the first thing we spoke about in our broadcast here tonight. That chicane at turn 5 is really, really just a wild ride if you get it wrong.
It is the probably the unfriendliest chicane in the history of sim racing for these cars, or any car, open wheels in general.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even the GT3s don't have a great time over there, even though they can cope a little bit better. It's not nice in any car particularly. And you're into the strange dips of turn 7, where the apex really does go into a little bowl. Somewhat weirdly. Oh, someone off the road there.
Yeah, who was that?
Who was that?
Kato.
It could have been. Kato's back to the pit lane. But we are starting to, and his pit stop is actually quite long, but we are seeing some scheduled pit stops now. Brad Miller and Joey Tevin have both been in. Adam McDonald's stop was a bit longer. He had some damage to fix, but he's also been in for his mandatory stop. Brad Miller will gain that place ahead of Ross Cato. But yeah, I don't know who was off the road there. And it was a strange place as well to be off the road. As Chablis gets down the inside of Ryan Puchel, and that will be the place for Chablis. He's through, and Puchel once again doesn't really want the trouble of fighting with a pro car. But yeah, we're starting to see the pit stops really take shape. 11 laps to go when we get to the line once more, and we'll see pit lane getting really quite busy very soon.
Yeah, and that pit lane thing. If you're Nick McLaughlin, just going to take a little bit of a different focus, because you can see the difference between Ron Kluner and McLaughlin right now is really short. It's less than 0.6 of a second between the number 62 and the number 45. If you're Nick, do you go for pit lane right now and try a little bit of an undercut? Because if I'm me, I would try to go for that undercut, even though you don't have the kind of like the natural pace of Big Rock.
Not well, yeah, it's. Oh well, he is straight in, so he's clearly listening.
He listens to me. Okay.
Yeah. He has indeed. And Nick Brooklyn makes his way into the pit lane from the AM lead. There it is. I was expecting him to actually go as just as long as he can, but maybe this is as long as he can go. Not entirely sure, really. Ridders also comes into the pit lane, by the way. That's Stephen Ridders. So we are starting to see a lot of stops now. Ryan Pruchel follows in as well. McLaughlin makes his way to his box. And we're not going to see very long pit stops here at all. We don't on many occasions in this championship. Only 4.4 seconds there for McLaughlin. We're going to see a very similar thing for Ridders and Pruchel. Ridders 4.5 seconds. Pruchel just over 5.5 seconds. Just being a little bit on the safer side of things. That's Joey Teppen, by the way, has retired from the race. That's his car you can see that sat on the road in the box. A number of drivers just making their way out. Interestingly, most of the AM drivers coming in this time rather than the pros. It's probably just a coincidence, really, as now race leader Conor Wagner comes in with 10 laps to go as of right now. He comes in, but I have to say it doesn't really matter when he's coming in this race because he's got such a big lead, he can do what he likes almost.
Careful, Mr. Ewan O'Leary. You know what happens when someone has a really big lead and he's dominated the race. It's still a lot of race left. You know what can happen, especially with me in this broadcast booth.
Absolutely, we've got to be careful. He's being so careful on the way into his box there, doesn't want to shoot through. Now, after 4.2 seconds, leaves again. It's not the most easy of pit lane exits here as well, very narrow. As we go down towards the final chicane. Oh, side by side. God. Well, that was all very aggressive, and Tyler Campbell in the end is going to have to reverse to get into the box here. Well, that was side by side onto the way into the pit lane. You don't often see that, and that's exactly the reason why you don't see it very often.
That's a first.
Wow. Well, who was that with? The yellow car on the outside. Was that Swindell's, was it?
It
could have been Richard Swindell's. Wow. Well, either way, he's making his way out the pit lane now because Kevin Sandiego's having an awfully long stop, a painfully long stop, as Ryan Pruchel also makes his way back down pit lane. What could that could that be? Speeding violation in the pit lane? Would that allow you to have to come in again?
32 seconds doesn't look like it. Unless he pitted before. Unless there's more lingering stops to do, and Ryan Pruchel now coming out of the pit lane, and it might be, but I don't think it is. It might be for repairs as well.
Well, let's find out there, because Ryan Pruchel trying to take advantage of Takeshi Kita's retirement from this race. He exits the pit lane after another 5 seconds, so he's done 2 regular stops there, and he's out in 8th place, and that significantly reduces his advantage in the championship. By the way, it was Richard Swindell who was side by side with Tyler Campbell earlier and had that little bit of contact, and so the battle for second has just slightly faded away because of that. Although Max Chablis is not going to be stopped from trying to go through on him here in this battle for the 7th position right now. He just has to wait in behind and wait for his moment here in a few moments' time. And surely he'll try and take that when he can, as Tyler Campbell also comes into the pit lane. I wonder what that was for as well. We're seeing a number of people coming in just the lap after they've stopped the first time. This is very bizarre.
Unless it is for damage, it has to be an unsafe pit entry.
Yeah, because it was certainly out of the lines, although I didn't think it was possible to get that at this circuit. I know it is at some others, but well, I suppose I just never have done that before, so it's entirely possible it's an unsafe pit entry. He pulls into his box anyway. Let's see, it's longer than a regular stop, and I think you're right. I mean, it doesn't really matter where he drops to at this point. He is 7th in Pro. That is the last running car in Pro, so it doesn't matter too much. However, yeah, it's Tyler Campbell just over 15 seconds. I think you might be right. Unsafe pit entry. And yeah, I have to say, I don't know what your opinion is on it, but going side by side into the pit entry there, I mean, it's not the smartest thing to do in the world, and it's quite a narrow pit entry in all honesty. There's just not enough space as Swindell gets overtaken now by Max Chablis.
It is not. It is not, but we've seen cases, especially in F1, of people trying to go side by side in the pit entry. Not literally into the pit entry, but at some point within the pit entry, right? It's seen that in sim racing. It's a little bit new for me, to be very honest with you. I've never seen that happen before. I think I've only seen an instance once, I think maybe in another league, but other than that, it's quite rare.
It is very rare indeed, and there's a reason for it, as we just saw down the inside there for Brad Miller making his way through on Ross Cato, the two of them having issues throughout the day, and Rock Clinard having issues, I'm afraid, on this lap. He's dropped behind Nick McLaughlin. What's happened? Oh, it's that pesky turn 5 curb, and the second time today he goes off. I mean, personally, we spoke about this earlier on, I'm going to be a little bit worried about in terms of actually damaging the car. Is the floor actually going to get any damage from that kind of really bumpy kind of curbs and whatever?
Oh, you can get damage on the front wing if you ride those cobblestone-esque curbs. If you just take it the wrong way, especially if you bounce back and you're still within the cobblestones, those cobblestone curbs. So it can happen. That happened before to me in an F3. So it's completely doable.
Yeah, let's hope for Rob Clinard's sake that he's gotten away with it, because Michael Overbay is only 2 seconds behind him right now. And I think that is that Clinard just in behind, or is that Conor Wagner? No, it is Clinard, I think, making his way down the inside. Oh, it's Caleb Petrie. I was right on neither occasion there. 0% success rate. There it is. Just making his way through. Second place for Caleb Petrie. It's a fairly lonely drive for him today. He's going to bleed a few more points in the championship, possibly as much as 6. The championship lead for Conor Wagner might reach over 50 points heading into the next race. Does that mean that he could possibly seal this one here right now? Can he be caught even with the situation right now? His drop round is 33 points, so at the moment he can only lose he can only lose 5 points in a race. If Caleb Petrie got every point possible and Conor Wagner got 0, he'd still only gain 5 in the standings. And so I think at the moment I didn't quite realise this, and I didn't quite do the maths of this at the time, but with 2 rounds to go after this one and 6 laps to go in this race, Conor Wagner might well be on his way to actually sealing the title with 2 rounds to go here in the Formula 3 Pro Championship.
Yeah, basically he has to finish the race. But what? The only thing he cannot get is a DNS or a DNF in the next 2 races. In the next 3 races, that's pretty much it. Actually, in the next 2 races, that's pretty much it.
Well, this is what I mean. Even if he does DNF in the next 2 races, the maximum Petrie could gain is 43 points if he gets every single point possible, and Conor Wagner doesn't score any more. So, because of the way the drop rounds work, Conor Wagner might well be on his way to taking a title here at the moment. Just in behind, or further behind, Blake Ziti battling with Lucio Vargas here. Vargas was the driver bringing up the rear in qualifying, qualified last, and is now knocking on the door of a top 5. That's a really nice drive from Vargas, and very happy for him indeed, because he got caught up in that lap 1 incident at the curb pull Frere last week at Spa. It was kind of an innocent party in that one, and now he's knocking on the door of a top 5. It would also be nice to see Blake Ziti get there as well from very low down the order. We've seen this, and this is what we mean by Zolder racing and the kind of racing you expect to see around here. Drivers from the back of the field getting their way through purely because they've had incident-free days.
Yeah, not only it's quite surprising to see this, why F1 is ran at Spa, right? Because this was back in the 80s, one of the places that F1 used to run back in the day, between the 70s and 80s. It happened 10 times, but it's mostly famous for the death of Gilles Villeneuve and also the crash of Jochen Maas. So because it was such not unsafe, but such a fast track that it was much faster. The grooves were faster, and were made for F1 cars back then. I think it made more logics in terms of changing the track, as I think we've saw issues with Petrie.
Oh, well, what's happened here?
Sorry.
Yeah, Pucel. Now, I thought he was ahead of Newhook before. Anyway, no, sorry, he was just behind. And Newhook might have made a mistake there, allowing Pucel to get through. Or it might have been just an organic pass anyway. But either way, no, it wasn't. It was a mistake at turn 7 by the looks of things. Oh, Newhook just getting things wrong. He did get the wall as well. There might be a bit of front-end damage. We'll try and see on the front right if there is any. However, I think there is there, actually. Well, it's hard to see. Well, actually, maybe he's gotten away with it, but either way, he doesn't have the pace of Ryan Pucel, who will have gained an extra couple of points, maybe 1 or 2 points by making that pass. All important points as well, of course, but at the moment, he's not gaining maybe as much as he would hope.
Yeah, but the wing is slightly bent. We can even see it's a tiny thing, but it makes a whole lot of difference in the car. Unfortunate.
It is. Just when you get things wrong through the first part of that chicane, you are often screwed for the rest of it, if you like. So it's not ideal. Nick McLaughlin currently in 3rd place. Rod Clinard on a bit of a recovery drive after a couple of spins here today, looking to regain that overall podium. He's already in 3rd as far as the Pro Championship goes, but looking to maybe take it overall as well. Just in behind the driver, the number 62 at the moment, having a much better time of things in the more northern part of Belgium. Well, it's not really northern, middle part of Belgium, if you like. The flatlands than he did at the rolling Spa-Francorchamps circuit. We're crashing out dramatically on lap 1, of course. It kind of sparked the chaos that caused a big incident through the curb pull Frere as well. It was a chaotic opening to his race, and it was a race that he ended up not finishing. But as long as he can get through these final 3 laps, he'll be completing this race inside the top 3 overall, and that is very impressive for an AM driver. But once again, it's the kind of thing you expect to see at Zolder as Blake Ziti spins from inside the top 5. Lucio Vargas is going to get inside that top 5 now as a result of that spin, and here it is.
Just on its own and losing the rear end like normally everybody else will. Fortunate for him, he narrowly avoided the cars right in front.
Oh my goodness me, Max Chablis well off the road there, finding himself a run either way. He's going to be on the outside going into turn 5. A very narrow line taken by Stephen Ridders there, who's going to be exposed surely down to a 7, but in the end Chablis didn't really get the run that was ideal to get his way through there, and so he has to stay behind further. Gets a little bit out of shape through 7, and so he's going to struggle to get through before the end of the race now. But of course, we'll see if he can. 2 laps to go for Conor Wagner just out front, and he's on his way to a 7th win in a row, and he's on his way to putting this championship into mathematical improbability, if not impossibility, at the moment. The likes of Caleb Petrie and David Holland not able to touch him really in this race, in this season. Conor Wagner, of course, on a real great run here in this championship. It's a run that is going to be struggled to be topped by anybody really in this season. Ridders now just on the defensive himself. This is 2nd place in AM versus what is 5th place in Pro. Chablis just trying to get his way through, but struggling to do so. And he's not got very long to do it. Although Ridders just letting him through on that one once again. As we get the white flag for the final lap here, Lorenzo, the battle for P3 looks like it is going to go to the line. And for once, McLaughlin, as an AM driver, looks like he actually wants to fight and hold on here.
Oh, he has all the right to if you really want to get a podium. It's going to be quite a rare podium for an AM driver to do it. Let's see if he's going to hold up to the final lap as they go into the final chicane and then battle it out for first time. Gap about 2-3 tenths of a second.
Just about 1 lap to hold on here for Nick McLaughlin. 2.5 miles, 4 kilometres for him to hold on to this overall podium. Into turn 1, Clinard once again looking to the inside, showing the nose, but there's no way through there. Looking at the inside at turn 2, showing the nose in a similar way, but once again there's no space there to make it through either, and so he's going to have to wait for later on in the lap. But where do you make this move? He's running out of time, he's running out of corners and running out of opportunities very quickly. Down towards turn 5 now. He's nowhere near close enough for an audacious dive, and even if he was, he might not go for it given his past problems with this particular corner. That run though might just be good enough for a look at turn 7, and McLaughlin knows that. He's on the outside line, he's not going to fight it in the end. Clinard steams his way down the inside, he slides his way on the inside and he makes it through as over the line comes Conor Wagner. It's his 7th victory in a row in the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series, and he just might have sealed this championship with 2 rounds to go. Caleb Petrie in second is not going to be able to do enough there to keep this title fight alive as we go on board with Nick McLaughlin. Despite losing out on the overall podium on the very final lap, he's still going to take victory here. Over the line comes Nick McLaughlin and he weaves in celebration. It's victory for the TQ Engineering driver for the 2nd time this season. McLaughlin winner here at Zolder. The frustration in qualifying turns to smiles at the end of the race. A very deserving winner indeed in what was a very attritional and very traditional Zolder race.
Yeah, Reader's already crossed line into P2 in the AM class, and Richard Swindells is about to cross into P3 in the AM class. So Swindells with a really good spot, and Kevin San Diego rounding out the top 10 after a hard, gut-wrenching race, but managed to recover top 10 nevertheless.
He did indeed. Conor Wagner then takes the victory here ahead of Caleb Petrie. It's a big gap in the end. Rod Clinard getting that podium on the final lap from Nick McLaughlin. Michael Overbay and Max Shabley were next ahead of Stephen Ridder, second in AM, who's ahead of Richard Swindells, Brian Lowe and Kevin San Diego, rounding out the top 10. Just outside of it was Lucio Vargas, final car on the lead lap, incidentally. Blake Ziti lost that lead lap with that final spin. Ryan Puchel only gaining what was about 24 points, I think, in the championship fight. It was indeed with that finish there, so he does take the championship lead by 17 points now with that 13th place finish. Peter Newhook, Brad Miller and Ross Cato all got to the end. Tyler Campbell and Adam McDonald did not, however they will get points, so will Joey Tebbin. Michael Blaise will miss out, along with, very importantly, Takeshi Kita, along with Lung and Negret, who crashed out at the end of lap 1, and so they won't be getting any points after DNFing from that race. Well, not a driver's favourite circuit there, Lorenzo, whatsoever. A lot of people very frustrated and very annoyed about having to drive this circuit because it has not been a favourite of the drivers today.
It is one of the hardest tracks for you to master on the F3, and as a track that doesn't, I'm not going to say blends with the F3, but it's very difficult for you to handle the nimbleness of the F3 car and try to manage it out with the tires and still be very consistent around this track. So I usually normally say that whenever you're driving in officials, usually it is a safety rating killer at this kind of track, and usually is it a job for some of the drivers that are driving the official series. But nevertheless, it's a track that once you master it, it's quite of a fun track for you to get a groove on. But well, at least they have still 2 more tracks in the calendar for them to run, one of them being around Atlanta, which is a track that I think it's perfect for these cars, but despite having the same technicalities.
I think you're absolutely right. We're going to see a great race in a couple of weeks' time. Let's get into the interviews, though, before we really preview the future. Nick McLaughlin joining us now. Nick, welcome to the booth here. I mean, you led the opening laps last week, but it didn't turn out well. You led the opening laps this week. It turned out a bit better. Just how was the Zolder circuit? Because we know it's not been a driver's favourite this week.
Yeah, this race went much better than last week. Right from the start, I had a good launch, and man, just guys dying all around me, so I just kind of held it together, thankfully, and made it to the end. And oh man, I've been waiting for a race like that. That felt really good.
I mean, just towards the end there, obviously you did fall off the overall podium, but how much of a factor is that in your mind, given it's a pro driver getting through, and I know it doesn't bother you in the GT3 series, but you're fighting for a championship there. Does it change your mindset here now that you're out of it, or is it still kind of a non-thing to you? You're not really bothered?
I'm not too bothered, but at the same time, like, given the skill level of these guys, man, if I could have snuck a podium, that would have been such a huge feeling. But Rod was probably about a second a lap quicker than me. I wasn't going to fight it too hard. So as soon as he made his move, I was, all right, that's that.
Absolutely. It's the second race win, though, of the season, though, for you, Nick. It's great to see you back on the top step. Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you kindly, Ewan.
Thanks very much. Nick McLaughlin, first place here today at Zolder in the AM category. We're going to stay with the AMs as well at the moment, because we do have second place man, Stephen Ridders, joining us now. Stephen, good to have you here as well. Second place here on the day. Just talk us through your feeling after that race. Are you pleased with that one, or do you feel like you could have had a bit more?
No, I think I did the best I could. Nick was just way too fast. I couldn't really catch him. Yeah, it's been a tough season for me. I haven't done as well as I want to, but this one felt good.
Absolutely. I mean, you had a great battle with Swindells a lot throughout a lot of that race as well. For the second half, it obviously faded away slightly. But how was it fighting around here? Did you find, obviously you were leading throughout most of it, but how did you find the kind of overtaking around here? Was it as hard as people were maybe expecting going into today?
Well, I really didn't know what people expected, but I knew just from racing here in the past that it's almost impossible unless you're a good half a second, if not faster than the guy you're chasing. So I figured my only strategy to pass Swindells is try to undercut, and it worked. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well executed indeed. Well, congratulations on second place here today, Stephen. Good to see you here, and yeah, we'll see you again in the coming weeks.
I hope so.
Thanks very much. Stephen Ridders, second place here today at Zolder. That is just about going to do it for tonight. Unfortunately, no of the pro drivers joining us. However, hopefully they will next week. Same time, same place. The Circuit Gilles Villeneuve will play host to the penultimate round of the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series. Make sure you join us for that one, and make sure you join us for all of the Precision Racing League events coming up next week. We're getting really to the business point. Conor Wagner now has almost put this championship to bed in the pro title, although it's taken another twist in the AMs. Ryan Pouchel will look to hold on. Join us next week at Montreal to see if he can do. But for now, from me, Ewan O'Leary, from Lorenzo Bonder alongside me, and from Hugo Luis behind the cameras, we'll see you again very soon, and it's goodbye for now.